DPP- as a therapeutic target in diabetes and beyond. An executive report DPP for dipeptidyl peptidase-4 DPP- is a serine exopeptidase expressed in multiple tissues and in soluble form in plasma. It inactivates incretin hormones such as GLP-1 glucagon-like peptide 1 and GIP glucose-dependent insulinotropic peptide, both of which are key regulators of glucose homeostasis. Inhibiting DPP-4 prolongs the action of incretins, enhancing insulin secretion and suppressing glucagon levels in a glucose-dependent manner. Key roles of DPP-4 include incretin degradation, GLP-1, GIP immune regulation via CD26 functions, modulation of cardiovascular and renal signaling pathways. Real-world evidence RWE. Several large-scale, real-world studies and registries have evaluated the clinical use of DPP-4 inhibitors. CVD-REAL study. Real-world data showed that DPP-4 inhibitors have a neutral cardiovascular profile compared to SGLT2 inhibitors, but are safer in older populations with renal dysfunction. Taiwan NHIRD longitudinal claims data demonstrated a reduced risk of hypoglycemia and lower treatment discontinuation in elderly diabetic patients using DPP-4 inhibitors. UK Clinical Practice Research Datalink CPRD demonstrated high adherence and favorable safety profile of sitagliptin and linagliptin among type 2 diabetes patients over 65 years old. Therapeutic modalities targeting DPP- for the DPP-4 inhibitor class is comprised of small molecule oral agents with selective inhibition and minimal off-target effects. While the market is mature, innovation continues in specific subpopulations and formulations. Linagliptin CV trial CARMELINA demonstrated CV and renal safety in high-risk patients. Sitagliptin pediatric trials, ongoing evaluation in type 2 diabetes in adolescents. Next-gen molecules, SCO-267 Sun Pharma, novel allosteric DPP-4 modulator with increased incretin tone oral peptide hybrids being developed in Asia-Pacific to deliver extended incretin activity. Ongoing investigator-initiated studies are evaluating DPP-4 use in post-COVID hyperglycemia, fatty liver disease, and NAFLD, and inflammation-mediated insulin resistance. Despite patent expirations, DPP-4 inhibitors continue to hold significant market share globally due to tolerability and safety. Recent developments in cardiovascular and renal space, while DPP-4 inhibitors do not show CV benefit like SGLT2 or GLP-1 RAS, they have a neutral profile, making them a safer option in patients with multiple comorbidities. CARMELINA trial linagliptin demonstrated no increase in MACE, heart failure, or renal events in high-risk patients. TECOS trial sitagliptin confirmed CV safety with no significant differences in CV outcomes compared to placebo. DPP-4's role in endothelial function. Preclinical evidence supports potential anti-inflammatory and endothelial protective effects of DPP-4 inhibition in atherosclerosis and heart failure with preserved ejection fraction HFpEF. Post-tax hyperglycemia. Off-label interest in DPP-4 inhibitors to manage glucose elevations without triggering hypoglycemia or weight gain. Combination strategy with SGLT2 inhibitors or insulin basal regimens is being adopted in patients who need intensified therapy without GLP-1 raw cost or G burden. Post-patent opportunity, generic manufacturing and regional licensing in LMIC's low and middle-income countries remains a growth engine. AI-guided drug discovery, used to identify next-gen DPP-4 analogs with better DPP-8/9 selectivity and fewer off-target risks. DPP-4 inhibitors in inflammatory disorders, early trials in lupus, IBD, and psoriasis due to immune regulatory functions of CD26, DPP-4. Summary: DPP-4 inhibitors remain a well-established class in type 2 diabetes therapy with enduring relevance due to safety, oral delivery, and tolerability, especially in older, comorbid populations. While newer classes GLP-1 RA, SGLT2I dominate growth, DPP-4 is hold a niche in fixed-dose combinations and emerging markets. Innovations in formulation, combination, and potential inflammatory indications may sustain life cycle extension.